Speaker, I move that so much of standing and sessional orders be suspended as would prevent the member for Denison from moving the following immediately. That this House acknowledges that Centrelink has, since late 2016, been sending out numerous incorrect notices relating to debt recovery. By its estimation, at least 4,000 of the 20,000 debt notices sent each week are incorrect. 2. Notes the severe financial and emotional toll that the debt recovery system has had on thousands of people, including some of the most vulnerable, with some going so far as to talk of suicide. 3. Notes the many well-documented problems with the system, including incorrect debts being raised by accrued data matching of a person's annual income as reported by the Australian Taxation Office with their fortnightly income reported to Centrelink, alleged debts having been referred to debt collection agencies in a short amount of time, often when the person has not even been made aware of the alleged debt because they have not received adequate notice from Centrelink, people being asked for pay slips and other proof of income from periods or in circumstances where they could not reasonably be expected to provide such documentation, and finally the Department of Human Services often refusing to explain how an alleged debt has been calculated and in some cases recalculating the alleged debt seemingly at random. 4. Notes that while the Minister for Human Services has indicated that some minor changes will be made, the program remains deeply flawed and must be shut down immediately. 5. Condemns the Minister for not only refusing to admit that there is a problem with the system, but also for insisting that the system will continue to operate despite it incorrectly targeting thousands of innocent Australians and its failure to treat people fairly and humanely. And 6. Calls on the Minister to firstly ensure that all Centrelink debt recovery activities are timely and accurate and are conducted in a fair and humane manner. And finally, to convene as a matter of urgency an expert stakeholder roundtable to design a fair and humane system of debt detection and recovery. Speaker, I regret that the government chose not to grant me leave to progress this matter immediately, but I hope that the government would see the sense and the opposition in at least now suspending standing and sessional orders to allow this matter to be dealt with. Speaker, I would hope that everyone in this place would understand. Can I have a copy of them? Speaker, I would hope that everyone in this place would understand and would agree that we have a very important duty to look after the most disadvantaged and vulnerable members of our community. It is not acceptable. It is not acceptable that we have a debt recovery program now in place and running its course, where, by the government's and by Centrelink's own admission, some 20% of the debt notices that are being distributed are wrong. That is simply not acceptable. There's something like 20,000 debt notices being issued by Centrelink each week right now. And that means that in the order of 4,000 debt notices are going out each week from Centrelink, and they are wrong, and we know they're wrong, and so far the government has nothing to rectify it. There is no way that can be defended. 4,000 incorrect debt notices each and every week. And although this has now been running for a few months, there's no reason to think that it's about to get any better anytime soon. This is an ongoing program, and in fact we have good reason to be concerned that not only are things not going to improve, but they're about to get a whole lot worse, because we know that the program is soon to be expanded to include recipients of the age pension and the disability support pension. Speaker, it's not good enough. It's not good enough for the government not to allow this matter to be dealt with now. This is not only a very serious matter, but it needs to be dealt with urgently. We can't wait for the normal processes of this parliament to run its course. This can't be dealt with next week or next month or next year. It must be dealt with today. And in fact, the government today needs to make the decision to axe the program and instead to design a new program, one that will be timely, will be accurate and will be fair. To put a human face to this, Speaker, and I think to help make the point why we must suspend standing orders and deal with this matter right now and not sometime down the track, is that people, real people, are being affected by this and being desperately hurt by this as we speak. Today, as I'm standing here now, people are opening their mail and they're seeing that, that they might owe Centrelink, and it might only be a few $100s, it might be many tens of thousands of dollars. But you know what? It doesn't matter how much it is, because for some people, a few $100s is an enormous amount of money. So I don't want to just focus on some of the outrageous figures that are being contained in some letters. I heard of one woman, I think from Queensland, who before Christmas was told she owed $69,000. But you know what, Speaker? For a lot of people in my community, in our community, to get a letter saying they owe a few $100s, that is a big deal. And that is enough to send some people into a complete spin. I've now had numerous people who have, when they've contacted my office, Speaker, talked of self-harm, have talked of self-harm. I know of one particular member of the community who has attempted self-harm as a direct result of receiving a letter from Centrelink alleging that he owed a considerable sum of money, which he was quite sure he doesn't owe. One of the problems here, Speaker, is this is a flawed system. And it's a flawed system that, among other things, is matching two completely unrelated data sets, but yet the government knows this. In fact, the government says they expected there to be something like a 20% error rate, because they figure that's okay, and they figure that it would be quite acceptable for that 20% to simply make the case that they don't owe the money. The problem is, Speaker, if they can't make the case that they don't owe the money, then they're assumed to be guilty and are forced to repay the money. Speaker, what on earth happened to the principle of innocent until proven guilty? Because with this policy, people are guilty until proven innocent. And, Speaker, a lot of people can't prove that they're innocent. I stood with a woman and her two young children at a press conference a few weeks ago now. Since 2010, she has held 5 jobs. She is now required, because she received a Centrelink debt notice recently, she is now required to substantiate her income back to 2010. Well, she's had 5 jobs in that time. One of her former employers isn't even in business. She can't possibly come up with the documentation to prove her innocence. And because she can't, she started to repay the debt. Guilty until proven innocent, Speaker. This is why we need to deal with this now. Now, I'm not waving my arms around and screaming and carrying on. I'm trying to make a sensible and reasoned argument here and urge the government, urge the minister to intervene. Look, it's not good enough to roll out some Centrelink manager. This is a job for the government and for at least the relevant minister to stand up here now and to explain himself and to explain the government's position. And it won't be good enough, Speaker, it won't be good enough to simply say that some minor changes have been made around the margins, because none of the changes that have been made around the margins so far are dealing with the fundamental problem that some 4,000 incorrect debt notices are being sent out by Centrelink each and every week, and that not only will that continue, Speaker, but that it will increase as Centrelink turns its attention to aged care and to the disability pension. Speaker, I'm grateful for the government allowing me to have at least this say. I would hope the government would now support the suspension of standing orders so we can have a decent debate about this, and we collectively, as the representatives of the Australian people, can start the process of getting rid of this flawed system and putting in place an accurate, timely and fair system that recoups the legitimate debts which need to be recouped. Yes, let's go after that money, but let's go after it in a timely manner an accurate manner and in a fair manner, and one that stops scaring so many good Australians.
Is the motion